And I don't know if any of you heard, there was a minor blip in the television landscape last night. Some TV show returned finally after 595 days off air. We finally got a new episode, ladies and gentlemen, of Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, of course, returned last night to all of its glory. A brand new opening sequence, of course, showing the break in the wall and all that kind of stuff. I like the opening sequence quite a bit. Rob, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. Even off air, we said, let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it. I want to know, was it worth the 595-day wait? How did you enjoy last night's Game of Thrones episode?
Well, look, first of all, let me just say I understand it was moving all of the pieces around the board and setting them up to strike and be striked. I loved it. I thought it was exactly what I wanted to get from this first episode. I think the episode was called Winterfell, and we got to see everybody come back. I loved how Bran Stark has become like the silent judger of everybody, and everybody has to kind of go talk about a gatekeeper. Bran Stark has become the ultimate three-eyed gatekeeper, just quietly looking at everybody. But I really enjoyed all of the different reunions of the show. I loved seeing Sansa and Tyrion seeing each other for the first time since Joffrey's wedding. And I loved seeing everybody come together and talk. I loved seeing Arya see John.
Yeah, that's a great moment.
I thought that was all great. And I did like seeing, even though it was a little goofy. I mean, our last best movie, worst movie was about rom-coms, and there was Flying the Dragons Together was a little rom-comish, I must say.
I dug it though. I thought it was a great scene.
I loved it, but it needed to happen. It's interesting. All of the things that they needed to have happen sort of happened. And now it's like, okay, here's all the reunions. Everybody's in place. Now we can start these next 5 episodes. We're off to the races. I just really enjoyed it. I loved even seeing Theon and what's her Greyjoy and Yara Greyjoy sort of make peace and go off to do what they're going to do. I like that. I like when he busted in and rescued her, which is a far cry from where he was when we saw her taken by Euron.
And how she hit him, and then he got and then let him up.
Yeah.
So appropriate. So appropriate.
Yeah.
Ashley, you had a chance to watch the episode last night. How did you enjoy it?
I mean, I loved it. Felt like Christmas. I exactly what Rob was saying. It's like I knew they were gonna have to set up a ton of stuff. I wasn't expecting like a battle in the first episode. So I thought it was great. I thought and they dropped like huge plot points like immediately when Sam told John. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening episode 1. So
right.
I loved it.
There's a lot of humor in it too. Like I like the line he's like the blue eyes, he's like,
oh my God,
I've always had blue eyes.
She's got blue eyes.
I also really like the scene where Dany told Sam that she executed his father and brother. That acting that he was doing was unbelievable. I couldn't believe his performance. I was just sitting there going, oh my God.
That was two different reactions. The reaction first hearing about his dad, and then the subtle difference between his reaction to that and his reaction to the death of his brother. It was fabulous. I'll tell you guys what, no holds barred. I freaking loved this episode. This might be, out of the 70 plus they've had, this might be a top 5 episode for me of Game of Thrones. And I'll tell you why. Because, look, any show can have, ooh, cling, 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 sword fights, and ooh, look, there's monsters. Any show can do that. Any show can make Battle of the Bastards. What made Battle of the Bastards was the fact of all the character dynamic and drama that went into it, that when you come to Battle of the Bastards, it is emotionally engaging. You are completely riveted because of all that stuff. And when you get an episode like this one, now granted, you were saying, Ashley, we weren't expecting some big confrontation, some big battle in the first episode. But what this episode did was it just soaked in the character dynamics, soaked in the character drama. We had Jon seeing Arya again. We had Jon seeing Bran. We had Tyrion and Sansa seeing each other. We had everything going on, all the drama unfolding in the Iron Throne room. We had everything that's going on with Cersei. We had, we had Reek rescuing his sister. We had so much happened in this. And then, of course, Sam and Jon confronting each other, because there was a bunch of us watching it here at my place last night. And I remember, even in the first 5 minutes, we're all like, don't put this off. Don't put this off. Like, as Bran says at the beginning, we've got to tell him. So you better not wait until episode 3. And then they did it. And they did it perfectly. And I love Samwise Gamgee and the way he addressed that whole thing, that immediately.
Samwise Gamgee?
Isn't he the Samwise Gamgee of this show?
Oh, okay,
Is Sam not the Samwise Gamgee of this show? I mean, it really is. So Samwise tells Jon, his Frodo, he says, you're the true king, blah, blah, blah. He's like, you're telling me my father lied to you? And instantly he was the voice of reason. He loved you, and he swore to his sister to protect you, and Robert Baratheon would have killed you like that. He had to do it. So I love the fact, because a lot of times in these shows, we see these conversations happen, but the common sense thing is never said, that we as audience members are screaming at the TV. And Sam stepped in and said the common sense thing. He said, he loved you. He had to protect you. They would have killed you if anybody knew for a second who you really were. And what I loved about it is he's still a Stark. His mother is a Stark. He's still a Stark. And he's a Targaryen and all this kind of stuff. But I'll tell you what, guys, beyond a shadow of a doubt to me, the ultimate moment of this episode, they saved for last. As Jaime rides into Winterfell. And I'm expecting, as he pulls his, I thought it was him when we saw the cloaked figure, because he hasn't showed up yet. So he pulls the cloak down, and there he is, looking a little more ragged, a little darker, the hair, whatever. And I'm thinking, he's going to see his brother. Or, he's going to see Dany, and what's going to happen there? I wasn't even thinking about Bran. I wasn't even thinking about it. And he gets off his horse, turns, and there's Bran sitting there like a boss. Just sitting there looking at him, almost like, sup? Like, oh my God. And nothing was said. See, again, this underlines, I'm not even the biggest Game of Thrones fan in the world. I can't recite all the names or anything like this, but this is what I appreciate about this show so much. They have cultivated and nourished and grown and saturated the character drama so much that all they needed to give us a huge impact moment was a dude getting off a horse, looking across the street and seeing a kid in a wheelchair, and it made me freak the hell out. I just soaked in this, and I saw some people online kind of complaining about this episode. I'm like, what in the flying F are you talking about? This was Game of Thrones at its best. I loved it. I ate it up. They had all those reunions, all those confrontations, all that. It was glorious. And I'll tell you what else. All this groundwork they're laying right now, when we get to the Battle of Winterfell, it's all going to pay off. It's going to pay off in spades. Oh, and one other thing that I became very, very sure about, very solidified in, is this. Daenerys Targaryen is a jerk. Oh my God, she's a jerk face. I hate this character so much, and I love hating this character. I love that she's there because I love hating this character. Look, on the line of good guy or bad guy, she's clearly a good guy. But oh my God, she is a jerk. Oh my God, she is a jerk. Whether it's the stuff like, you got Sansa, Lady of Winterfell, sitting there talking about how, look, this is all kind of new to us. I'm not comfortable with this. And by the way, how the hell are we going to feed everybody? And what do dragons eat? And she's got to be the show-off. Whatever they want. Shut up. Anyway, and then later on, just talking to Sam, it's just like, yeah, I gave your father a chance to bend the knee. He didn't. I killed him. Oh, and your brother too, by the way. You need to go and take some time. I was like, jerk. She's a jerk. I love that she's in the show, but she's a jerk. Anyway, so I don't know.
There was one other moment that I really, really liked. And that's when Tormund, Beric, and Dolores find the zombie kid.
Oh,
in the mandala of severed arms, because that harked back to the first episode of Game of Thrones in the first season, and what I really liked about that is the Night's King was sending a message.
Yep.
So if they're sending a message, there's more going on. I mean, I've always thought of them as, and the way they've been portrayed in the show, occasionally they'll show glimpses of intelligence, like taking out the dragon. But it seemed to me like they're just kind of like a storm, like a hurricane or a tornado that's just going to roll over everyone. But like the Cylons, they have a plan. You know, they were making a statement. What is that statement? I don't know. But they took the time to do a Hannibal Lecter-esque, a Mads Mikkelsen arts and crafts project and leave it on the wall. I thought that was a great moment seeing the three of those guys come together. They got to they're behind the White Walkers, so can they get to Winterfell before the shit goes down? But then that was really creepy when the eyes opened and the kid was actually alive.
Oh.
Man, I thought it was like a little, like at first my friends and I were like, is it kind of like a swastika? And then they're like, quick, add more arms, because like the pattern, I was like, that's interesting. But can we just talk about Gendry? Because I feel like he's like the silent killer here in this show. I'm like,
everybody forgets about him. He's the real heir to the throne.
Yes. I'm like, what is going to happen with this guy? Is he going to be on the throne at the end? Or is it John? I mean, you've read all the books. Like, who actually is?
They've never.
But they've never caught up. The show is now ahead of the books.
I always that.
Arya and him are going to hook up. Then he dies. She's going to end up on the Iron Throne. There we go. Arya ends up on the Iron Throne.
I'm interested right now. I'm like invested, and I care about every single character that's left. So, I mean, just seeing them on screen again made me excited, and the whole build up. And yeah, Cersei. I mean, she's unhinged. Something has got to.
She's
click
broke,
with that woman soon.
I think this, Robin, I'm curious to know what you think about this. We talked about this last night, but I think the White Walker part of this story comes to an end in the Battle of Winterfell. I think that's where this ends in 2 weeks. And then the remaining episodes are about the Iron Throne. The last 2 or 3 episodes are going to be about the Iron Throne. So, do you think the White Walker thing goes right through to the end?
No, I mean, if it does go to the end, it's going to be more like the White Walker threat to me is not what the show, like you said, has been about.
Right.
What's been going on is what this threat is going to do is rally the troops behind someone, whether that's Jon Snow, whether that's Daenerys. I think it's apparent to me, at least, that Daenerys is not long for the world, and I don't think, because like you said, she's not a good leader. She doesn't inspire enough people. And at the end of the day, she's got too many enemies, namely Sansa Stark. Somebody, I think Rolling Stone in one of their recaps said there was enough side eye from Sansa in this episode to make memes for the next 20 years. And I love that. I love what they've done with Sansa. I mean, she was brutalized by Ramsay Bolton. I mean, she's put up with a lot of shit since she was sent to King's Landing in the first episode with her father, and she deserves, I mean, she's a real badass. And remember, she brought in the troops and saved John's ass at the Battle of the Bastards. I mean, she's earned her place. If anyone's a queen or has been groomed to be a queen, I think it's Sansa, but who knows?
I love that Arya even said she's the smartest girl I know.
She's smartest person I know. But my favorite line in the show, and why this dude's a true king. He's got everybody pissed off at him, including the biggest badass in this show, which is little Lady Mormont. Like that little girl. I mean, she just blew me away in previous episodes, and then she stands up again and gets right in Snow's face, like gets right in Jon's face. I love this kid, but then he stands up and says, "I had a choice: protect my crown or protect the North, and I choose the North." I'm like, king. That's a king. That is a king right there. Anyway, I got excited. Anyway, we could talk about this all day, but we cannot. We have to move on. We got a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about here today.